Today we're talking about a wound that goes deeper than many realize. A wound passed down through generations, reinforced in churches, whispered through doctrine, and embedded in the very fabric of society. It is a wound of religious trauma. The deep psychological, emotional, and spiritual scars inflicted by patriarchal indoctrination. And if you have ever felt disconnected from yourself, shamed for your power, or conditioned to believe that submission is holiness, then, beloved, this message and episode is for you. This is Chief Apostle Veronica Israel with the Sankofa Sessions podcast, continuing our Women's History Month series entitled The Matriarch Has Returned. And beloved, today we are stepping into a sacred rebirth because healing begins with unlearning. Now come with me and let's get into the deep wounds of patriarchal religious indoctrination. For centuries, religion has been used as a tool of control and oppression. And while faith itself is not the enemy, the way it has been used and weaponized against women and men, for that matter, has left countless souls in bondage. Let's talk about the wounds. Number one is the wound of submission and silence. From the time we are young, many of us, especially women, are taught that obedience is godliness, that our voices should be soft, that our power should be restrained, that we must yield to male authority, whether that's in the home, the church, or out in society. But where did this doctrine come from? Because the divine feminine, the true essence of spiritual womanhood, was never meant to be docile. Ancient cultures revered women as seers, healers, and leaders. The first spiritual guides were matriarchs. The first temples that were built to honor the goddesses, those were the first temples. And yet patriarchal religion has erased, demonized, and distorted the truth to keep women bound. So beloved, when you feel that inner fire, the urge to rise, to reclaim your voice, to step into something bigger, I want you to understand that this is not rebellion. This is remembrance. Number two, the wound of shame and control. How many of us were taught that our bodies were sinful, that our desires made us unholy, that sexuality was something to suppress unless it was within the boundaries set by religious institutions? This shame runs deep. It's why so many have been left to struggle. So many of us have struggled with self-worth, body image, and pleasure. It is why some have stayed in abusive relationships. I know you know somebody that are stuck in an abusive relationship, believing suffering was sacred. It's why many women are experiencing the attack on reproductive rights that we're seeing here now today. That's right. This wound goes so deep that sometimes we don't grasp how deep it goes. It is why women's reproductive rights have been attacked under the guise of morality. Family, this is not divine law. This is control. And beloved, you were not created to be controlled. Let that sink in your spirit. Number three, the wound of fear and punishment. Religious trauma instills fear of questioning, fear of thinking differently, fear of stepping outside of the box or thinking outside of the box, fear of having an opinion that goes against the status quo, goes against the norm. But I want you to hear me today and hear me well. The infinite intelligence, or God by all names known, is not afraid of your questions, your concerns, your doubts, your fears, or disbelief. The great universal spirit is not threatened by your liberation. The divine did not create you to live in fear. My dearest, it is time to unlearn. Now, if we're going to heal, we must first understand that much of what we've been taught is not spirituality, it's colonialism wrapped in a religious language. Before colonization, before patriarchy infiltrated faith, spirituality was about connection. It was about balance. It was about honoring the divine in all things and in everyone, including yourself. Decolonizing spirituality means stripping away the layers of oppression that have been disguised as holiness. It means returning to the truth. Here are ways you can return to the truth and decolonize. Number one, reclaiming the divine feminine. The divine feminine is not weak. She is not passive. She is fierce. She is nurturing and powerful. She is the creator and the destroyer. She is the oracle, the healer, the warrior, the high priestess. And guess what? She lives in you. Reclaiming the divine feminine means rejecting the false narratives that women must be small, silent, or secondary. It means stepping into our power unapologetically. It means restoring balance where there has been imbalance far too long. Number two, rewriting the narrative. It's time to separate spirituality from oppression. To understand that faith and freedom are not opposites. To walk away from doctrines that keep us in chains and into spirituality that sets us free. This is the work of decolonization. Now, I know some of you out there are asking, how do I begin? How do I heal? How do I break free from this conditioning that has been drilled in me since birth? Well, let me give you 4 steps that are tied to decolonizing, that are tried, tested, and proven to aid in breaking free from submission conditioned mindset. Number 1, question everything. If a belief system makes you feel small, afraid, or unworthy, it's time to question it. If a doctrine keeps women in submission and men in dominance, it's time to question it. Because truth empowers. Spirit liberates. Anything that keeps you bound is not the divine. It's oppressive, and it's an oppressive energy. And guess what? We don't need it. Number 2, reconnect with your inner knowing. You have been told to trust religious leaders, texts, and traditions more than you trust yourself. That's a problem. It's time to reverse that. Your intuition is sacred. Your wisdom is divine. Your inner voice is the voice of God moving through you, in you, as you. Beloved, begin to trust it. Number 3, seek out feminine-centered spirituality. Read books, listen to teachings, podcasts like this one, and engage with communities that uplift the divine feminine, that teach spirituality beyond the walls of patriarchal religion, that remind you of who you are and who you were before you were told who to become and who to be. And lastly, number 4, speak and stand in your power. No more shrinking. No more apologizing for your existence. No more bowing to systems designed to suppress you and oppress you. You are not here to be small. You are not here to be silent. You are here to rise and rise and rise and help your fellow sisters and humanity to rise to the occasion. Beloved, so my question to you is, are you ready to be reborn? Are you ready to shed the shame, the fear, the control, and step fully into your power? Because the matriarch has returned, and beloved, that matriarch is you. This has been another powerful and impactful episode of the Sankopa Sessions podcast with your host, Chief Apostle Veronica Israel. Always remember, I love each and every one of you. Until next time, peace be with you.